Saying it failed to play.
Good evening. Welcome to Prophecy Roundtable. Oh boy, we have a lot of interesting stuff to talk about tonight. We've got a special guest, William Ramsey. I had him on my show. It wasn't even this show. It was according to the scriptures. This was a long time ago when I still lived in California. And we are going to talk about the externalization of the hierarchy. Okay, that's point one. We're going to talk about how UFOs and all of that stuff ties into this. And we're going to also look at the arrival of the lady, Alice Bailey. Now, you might be like, whoa, what's going on here? Well, he's going to help us understand all these topics and see how it just might fit into scripture. Hey, if you guys have been watching this show and you love it, go ahead and become a patron. That would be awesome. You can give $2 a month. You can give, well, there's no limit on what you can give, but it really does help, pay for the internet and the lights and all that stuff. So big shout out to the patrons already. Thank you so much. So make sure to do that. And of course, like and subscribe. Let's get going. I am looking forward to this, William. We are so glad excuse me, that you are here. And boy, take us into what sounds like quite the quagmire tonight. So I'm looking forward to this.
Yes, crazy, amazing things are happening in the world. 2025 is a very important date for the occultists, the esotericists, and it ties in with our current political leadership and going back through this kind of concept of the ascended masters, which goes from Blavatsky to Bailey through Barbara Marx Hubbard, world depopulation advocate, to the present day. So, and it's there are modern kind of evangelists or dark evangelists who are promoting these same ideas. So, and it's current, so it's not like something from yesteryear. It's literally this year. So, pretty incredible stuff with a lot of occult overlaps through the UFO promotion of the UFO mythology as well.
Wow. Okay. Crazy stuff.
We can start with Blavatsky, right? Blavatsky, Lucis Trust, and her influence upon Western esotericism, including Crowley. But she had this idea of esoteric masters or ascended masters, and they were also called the Great White Brotherhood. She was in contact with and sought contact with, and that's the Theosophical Society, which very much influenced Nazism, which is another show. But she had followers, and one was a woman. Besant was one. But Alice Bailey, she actually wrote a book titled The Externalization of the Hierarchy. And it really advocated this kind of notion of root races, the Aryanism, but also had this kind of idea. She wanted the hierarchy is the Great White Brotherhood, the ascended masters. So externalize is to put that into the public kind of consciousness. And some people kind of look at her maybe as a dead letter, but she was involved with a lot of stuff involving the UN, which there's a lot of people affiliated with the UN in very dark ways that influence modern culture and even the new alternative media, such as Jordan B. Peterson, Eric Weinstein, et al., among others. So people see a lot of these names, but the UN and its meditation room and even the monolith on the shape of the building itself is very telling, plus the Rockefeller influence. But essentially, the 2025 is the golden age, and you actually hear Trump use the word golden age, and he sees himself as the golden one, like it's not a joke. So he has this kind of non-Christian Luciferian sensibility that people should find disturbing. And he knows a lot of the occult as well. Like we can go into the Tesseract and things like that. But he is not, much like some of these other characters who people may not know, such as Bledsoe, he's not I would say, abiding Christian.
So let's describe it. It's Chris Bledsoe, and he seems to be that nice, sweet Southern gentleman, but he's trying to entice you into this stuff, the Lucifer publishing company type stuff from the UN, right?
100% agree with that. He has this book called The UFO of God. He was on a very influential podcast called the Sean Ryan Podcast. This guy comes out of nowhere, but he's promoting this book that is this amalgamation of UFOism, Christianity, the Lady, which is an ascended master, and then a lot of really heavy occultism, which should have nothing to do with the foundational practice of Christianity. I have a video of him and Trump. Maybe you can play that Trump video.
Yeah, we'll do.
Renewal in all of American history, maybe of global history, the golden age of America, I call it. It's begun. So it's the golden age of America, and that's what it's going to be. And we hope we don't have any intervening problems, because things happen. Like out of nowhere came the China virus. Out of nowhere came other things we don't want to have. You know, when I left, we had no wars. We had no problems. The Middle East was good. We did the Abraham Accords. We did things that nobody thought were even possible.
So there he is repeating this phrase, the golden age, which in the occult, in this kind of esoteric version, the golden age is the externalization of the hierarchy. So he's promoting something kind of unique, among other things, but something unique that is occult. I mean, if you look at his decorations, I'll show. There's a picture on my slides of him all gold in Gaza as a huge almost
Apollo and his
he's promoted
little goat money statue and everything.
His family purchased the Tesla Foundation, basically all the Tesla information, right?
I'm not aware of that. I don't know.
Oh, okay. All right. I had heard that last week from Courtney Turner. So it sounds like his family is deeply involved in Tesla research and esoteric type of research.
Well, his uncle was
the person.
Yeah, his uncle was the one who was responsible for Tesla's archives.
Yes.
When Tesla.
And when we say Tesla, just so we're clear, we're talking about Tesla, the man, the inventor, not
Nikola Tesla, the Serbian.
Right. Yeah.
And his dad was an MIT. I mean, his uncle was like a polymath. He had 3 degrees and taught at MIT.
Yeah,
his dad's brother.
Not Tony Musk or Elon Stark.
Right. Yeah, I was confused there for a second. But these are really, I mean, it really is incredible. His kind of like family connections to some pretty wild stuff. But if you go back to Alice Bailey, she was probably one of the more influential things. But you see her ideas have influenced the culture today. She had a 10-point charter that goes through the world core public educational system. Take God and prayer out of the education system, reduce parental authority, destroy the Judeo-Christian family, sex is free, make abortion legal, make divorce easy and legal, homosexuality, alternative lifestyle, debase art, use media to change mindsets, create an interfaith movement, and gets governments to make all these laws and get the church to endorse the changes. So you can see what her whole layout has been actually implemented. It's not like something kind of different. So it's really has happened. And we just had the great invocation of 2025. The whole idea is to externalize this kind of spiritual hierarchy all around the world. So
that was on June 11th. We had a show that night with Courtney Turner. And then if you look at the 12th, the 13th, the 14th, I'm from Minnesota. We had the assassinations, and I happen to know the senator. He was a friend of mine that was shot. He lived, and his wife too, but it's too bad the other 2 died. And so what we've noticed is just chaos in the world, and they seem to pray the chaos in through the externalization on the 11th. It was the Bilderbergs, and it was also the Alice Bailey types, the Theosophists. Okay. And so basically since the 11th, it's gotten crazy, hasn't it? I mean, we have Israel attacking Iran. Now we have Trump sending more, maybe troops over to Iran, but it's been busier. You should notice this spiritually. It should be getting more aggressive, and you'll just notice it, people. Right, Bill?
Yeah. And 11 is the number of magic. It's the number of the New World Order. I explained it all in my book, Prophet of Evil. So this is their thinking. This is kind of the occultist thinking. Crowley, who was aware of a lot of this kind of esoteric occultism, but 11 is also very important. It symbolizes a lot of things, but it's also an ideogram, so it symbolizes kind of the coming together of opposites. But it's also the numbers, the hexagram and the pentagram, or the cosmos coming together from the universe to the pentagram is the kind of internal life. So they come together as an 11. Very important magical number, which is why
going into the Friday the 13th, and that's a big number for them too. And then going into the Shabbat when the attacks occurred and other mayhem across the world, it seems like the Satanists are gearing up for a big battle, right, Bill?
Yeah, I mean, it looks like it. How many fronts does Melikovsky, aka Netanyahu, have running now? It's Gaza, Syria, Lebanon, and Iran, I guess. I don't even know. And America, really. I mean, you have to kind of see that Israel is a part. Yeah. Yeah, there's definitely some kind of. I think it's the real thing is that the war that happens in the Middle East is what plays out in the U.S. So without the U.S.'s support, it's a military operation to get the support of the U.S. Sorry, guys, I don't know if you know that or not, or the audience, but there's some. I mean, it's really interesting these questions because they just had Tucker Carlson kind of fighting with Ted Cruz about whether Christians should support Israel and whether it's in the Bible or whether
William, do you think that was more of a setup? Do you think that was like totally staged or what's your thoughts on Tucker?
I think Tucker has certain issues he wants to bring up, and so he's trying to find somebody he can play off.
Well, my question was more about Operation Mockingbird and Tucker's dad being in the CIA and supposedly Tucker not making the cut, but I don't buy that for one bit. I think I personally believe, I can't prove it, I don't know. I believe Tucker's playing his role just like Vanderbilt's son does on CNN. He plays his role, and I don't believe Operation Mockingbird ever went away. They're still inserting. And behind this certain 3-letter agency is probably a 6-letter agency that might have its residency in an ancient land that we know as Israel, pulling some strings behind it.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mentioned the monolith earlier. They apparently the Iranians bombed Mossad headquarters underneath a huge monolith that looks like the UN. Pretty strange symbolism. But I think it's provable that Tucker Carlson is a member of the Pilgrim Society. And that means he's networked all the way up to the King Charles III. His agenda is sustainability. So I think he's got a good shtick, I have to admit. But it is interesting, the whole thing about them bringing up like loyalty to Israel. That's a question. So,
what are your thoughts on Candace? Do you think she's just a useful idiot right now for the Roman Catholic side of the equation?
I think that she was somebody who was developed too. She kind of flew the coop. I mean, I think that Shapiro, some of these other guys who were kind of kingmakers in the new media kind of made her as a conservative figure. And then she just had enough of something and got out of there. So she's on her own. I don't know. She seems to be more independent. So that's good. But I think that she was kind of a controlled media creation. Like, I don't think she's a natural researcher. I think they just found a very well-spoken African-American woman.
Well, the reason
I think she's smart. I think she's smart.
The reason I'm saying this is just watching, and this is more like watching interactions with some of my college buddies who I call Romans. They're not, they all they do is make fun of me and our show like this and my interest in Bible prophecy but it's interesting to watch their shift just in the past month or two sort of turn on Israel. Okay. In other words, they've always been like very, very supportive, but in this alt-right neoconservative media, that the algorithms work, they're obviously getting the algorithm of Israel bad. Everything Israel does is bad. The evil Jews run the world nonsense. I mean, again, there are some Jews that are very, very powerful, but I can see how this is building up an animosity and hatred toward anybody that claims to be Jewish, whether they're the local rabbi down the street. And I always differentiate between someone like Zuckerberg or Harvey Weinstein or these upper level Jew in name only versus the local, people who just, they have their faith, they practice their faith. Obviously they deny Yeshua, but there's a major difference. But I'm seeing this being turned up to really ratchet up the heat against Israel and Jews in general. What are your thoughts on that?
I think so. I think that there's inveterate like anti-Semites who always hate Jews. So this is their opportunity. I don't think the recent actions of Israel under Netanyahu look great at all. Like causes a disaster, totally un-Christian, possibly even unbiblical. That's not Amalek. Amalek is like 3,200 years ago. So this whole like Amalek is everywhere, I think is accursed. I don't think that's good. But I mean, the table has, from a biblical perspective, the table has to be set, right?
That's
like if you really believe in the
all
biblical
nations
prophecy,
have to come against Judah. They don't come against all of Israel. They don't come against Samaria. They come against the house of Judah and Jerusalem. Zechariah 12 is very specific in what house is mentioned. I don't know where you stand on this, but and the fact that Ephraim, Joseph, Israel is not mentioned at all. I mean, it's the silence is deafening. And I see that what's happening with this and with this alt-right media, the algorithms, is I'm seeing more and more who just a year ago would have been pro-Israel. They're getting turned into being very anti, if you would, especially if we get involved in this war.
I think you're right, because that's the match that lights the world on fire right there. That this attack on Iran that happened within the last week. I mean, that's where all the alliances and allegiances is already really in the last week are already being set. Pakistan says they're going to support Iran. China's clearly supported. China and Russia are supporting Iran, whether overtly or covertly. And then the U.S. and Israel seems like, and it seems like the UN's involved. I mean, the NATO's involved in attacking Iran. So I think that the table's going to be set. Like it's going to happen. It's happening in front of our eyes. So I think you're seeing kind of the first rumblings, really. And I think you're right. I mean, to sum up, like the anti-Israel, anti-Jewish fervor is getting heightened. There's no question about it. Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens are perfect examples.
Well, but here would be a great example of Ted Cruz regurgitating and parroting a lie straight from the pits of fire, where he is quoting from Genesis about those who bless Israel will be blessed. No, we don't need to bless this modern Gentile state called Israel. We need to never be arrogant toward the natural branches, which I believe those are the people that believe they're Jewish. I don't care if you just converted last week. I'll call you Jewish. And I'm not going to care about your bloodline. But you can see how that has been twisted. And I believe when people incorrectly use the scripture and apply it only to Jewish people as the chosen ones, that in turn tends to cause division. That causes strife. That causes jealousy. It's like, who in the world do you think you are that only you are the chosen people? And again, that's what Messianic Judaism theology even teaches, at least for 95% of it. And it's a lie. It's not biblically correct. And so I can see how even theology, how it's developed in dispensationalism. Have you ever looked into that, William, as far as the Jesuits and how their counter-reformation and how they sort of invented this dispensational theology and inserted it into the cemetery schools of the Protestants?
Not in great detail. I'm familiar with Darby, but I don't know. I can't go into great detail with that.
Well, it'd be like Irving, who translated Lacunza's work, who was he wrote under a Jewish pseudonym name, but Irving translated this Jesuit's book that was written in the late 1700s, and he translated in the early 1800s, and him and Darby palled around. Oh. And all Darby did is systemize what Lacunza had essentially done. So I'm just seeing it all play together and come in, sort of like this would not be biblical. This would be the theory that Albert Pike's letter and the First and Second World War and how this has all been stoked to bring about.
Mazzini.
Yeah, but again, this is Yah's plan. He's allowing this all to happen. This is God's plan. Nothing's happening that's surprising him as far as the timing of this war between Iran and Israel, whether or not this leads to the final conflict, whether or not this leads to a peace treaty, and Judah gets to rebuild its temple. I mean, I don't know. I'm just watching. What are your thoughts on that?
I agree. It's God's plan. I don't know how it plays out, but it sure looks like it fits in with biblical prophecy to me. So, I mean, I can't say that I'm Daniel or Jeremiah.
So tell us about Alice Bailey. What's so significant about her, and how is this all going to?
Well, I think that she wants to create this kind of esoteric occult world. That's really hers, Luciferianism. And so I think that it's another element in this whole change in the world system of these countries breaking down and ideologies growing. And really, it's really the ideology behind the UN, which is really influential. So I think that that's probably the real hidden purpose of the UN is this kind of Luciferianism, Lucis Trust type ideas. But it's interesting. She believed in this kind of anti-Corona, and that's like the world anti-Corona, which is kind of a group formation of the world, all nations. And then if you see the Operation Warp Speed, which Trump talks a lot about, you'll see the visual representation of the anti-Corona. So you see this kind of hidden agenda between a lot of big world events. And that had certainly 9/11, but also this whole COVID rollout. So I think, they talk about this kind of birth pangs of the new civilization, much like Christians talk about the birth pangs leading up to the return of Jesus Christ. They have a different idea. They kind of are very subtle in their infiltration of kind of Christian ideas. This kind of Christ consciousness is what they want, which isn't Christ's teachings. It's very different. But their Christ is a maitria, is what they call it. And there's been other proponents of this kind of maitria concept, but it's their Messiah. It's a Luciferian Messiah. And if you read some of the other writings of people who followed after Bailey, like Hubbard, they want to create the world of like of the book of Revelation, where the white horse comes and kills off a quarter of society, but those quarter are usually Christians.
Hey,
so you
William,
can talk to Bible Marks over.
Do you see a link here as far as the UN agenda and sort of like, and I'm going to say the upper levels, or really it's the bottom dregs of Roman Catholicism and this ecumenical movement, and even at the esoteric Kabbalah / Judaism. Again, I'm not throwing the little local Orthodox rabbis, but I'm talking about this elite Luciferian. Sure enough, they know who they worship at the top of this pyramid. How about?
I think the ecumenical churches.
What kind of connections have you made?
I don't know a lot about the Roman Catholic infiltration. I don't see a lot of it. Maybe it's there, maybe it's secret. But this interfaith movement, in my understanding of the Council of Churches, which was also supported by the Rockefellers, is that kind of ecumenical infiltration. So I do believe in that. But
well, you've got the new pope and the old pope, and pretty much every pope for the last, at least since I've been a teenager, all promoting an ecumenical. There are many paths to God. I mean, it's directly contradictory to what Genesis through Revelation teaches. There's one God, there's one way to him. Obviously, now we know that is through Yeshua. He is the way, the truth, the life. And this new pope is teaching, many paths lead to God. And that, I think it fits right into this Christ consciousness, this Luciferian one world religion that, I think everybody on this panel can agree it's happening. It will happen at the end of the age. It's just a matter of when.
Yeah, that's another new formation. So as the globalism, advent of communications, transportation, these ideas are going to be out there. It's kind of like an overlap with perennialism, that wisdom is everywhere. But I think you're really, I think authentic Christianity it's Jesus over everything. I think it is over Moses. It is interesting that he's quoting Moses, like, have courage and all this stuff, and then runs off to Greece. But I think that as a Christian, I think it's Christ overall. Even overall, overall traditions, it's really you're focused on Christ as the author and finisher of your faith, Alpha and the Omega. I think so.
But Chris Bledsoe talks about that Christ too. I mean, he talks about Jesus all the time. And so he's selling poison, but we can't always be sure why and how. I was listening to a video today from Flyover Conservatives, and they cited about 8 prophets, giving them 10, 20 minutes each. And they're all lying, just absolutely lying. They're all NAR people, New Apostolic Reformation people. And so they're kind of on the take already, but they're giving words from the Lord, supposedly. And so how do you know if your next door neighbor is a NAR person or a Chris Bledsoe? How would you know, William?
That's a really good question. I guess it's really the new teaching. It's kind of like these things that are not biblical. They're not, there's only one gospel. So all this new stuff that people add on to the gospels is, whether it's Mormonism or NAR or stuff like that. These are not the authentic, in my opinion, not the authentic Christianity. So you kind of got to watch out for these new kind of new things on the scene, these kind of maybe more hip versions of Christianity or things like that, or to be afraid of, and the new kind of language. There's kind of a simple language, in my opinion, associated with the practice of Christianity. And so sometimes these people use this words, Christ consciousness, New Apostolic Reformation, that they're all, apostles and these glorified, names and titles and things like that.
Well, they also believe in 7 mountains, so they believe that we're creating the kingdom for Yeshua to return to. We're going to create this perfect world, and he doesn't need to do anything. He kind of shows up and drinks some coffee and observes. So it's not biblical, obviously, but they really are selling it. And so that's that Christ consciousness, that we're going to convert this world through whatever it is that they believe in.
I'm not aware of that. I'm not surprised, though. I know that I just
that's what they teach. It's insane.
That's what they teach. Yeah.
Well, I mean, and my understanding is they're not always overt that they're part of the New Apostolic Reformation. Oftentimes, they're like infiltrate other things. They don't like put it on their church thing, NAR, New Apostolic Reformation. I may be wrong, but
I've never met a false prophet that says, hey, by the way, I'm a false prophet. Here you go. I'm going to show you how I disagree with the scriptures. They're always so snake-like,
Sneaky, yeah, I agree.
And Chris Bledsoe is the worst right now. Chris is on the shows. He's making the rounds. I saw him. There's a UFOologist on one of the other channels, and he's been observing all the UFO activities. And I'd like you to go that direction too, because there is a curiosity with UFOs. We did some shows last year. We got good ratings. People are curious. And there was a sighting in Las Vegas, and there was a sighting in Miami. So people are curious. They want to know, is it an extra dimensional? Is it an extraterrestrial? Is it a demon? What is it? And people are wondering, William, what do you think is going on there? I mean, are these things opening up? Are portals opening?
Yeah, the short of it is, I think the phenomenon of experiencing things outside of yourself, like from other dimensions, is real. I do believe people are seeing orbs. I think a lot of these films are fake, and there's a underlying reason why people are promoting these ideas, whether it's to cover up secret things that the government's doing, or to promote an anti-Christian worldview, or that they've been initiated and they're literally Luciferians or Satanists, which is really true. Like, there's so many occultists, high-ranking, high-level black magicians in the UFO community. It would freak you out. Like, Peter Levend is very much involved in the UFO. He's involved with that guy who's from Blink 182. Like, he's written a lot of his books, Secret Machines, I think it's called, with a K, the 11th letter in the alphabet. But that's just one. The guy, I think his name is Green, who brings down the orbs. These are close to more sorcerers than UFO. They're promoting it. They're trying to get people interested by saying that it's like normalizing Satanism or normalizing presencing entities. And it's no mistake that the people who are experiencing UFOs are similar to other people who experienced demons 2, 3, 4 centuries ago. It's the same story. Terrified, confused, something showed up and left. These UFOs are not much different than like a demon showing up at your bed. And I think there's a reason for that.
Why do you think the demons want seed? Because when I hear the stories, it involves getting seed from the human beings. Why do they want seed?
I don't know. I don't know. I think that Revelation teaches that, the people were cast out of heaven, and and I think that there's some kind of division in the mortal world, and there's an unlike human world, and these are the ones that didn't join humanity. So maybe they're interested, just like why does a demon want to possess somebody? Why does he want to control? Like, it's such a core tenet within the New Testament too, like Christ casting out demons, legion, all these other things. This is like some of his first miracles are like that. And why does that tie into the UFOs? And why do the Satanists believe in, like, Satanists literally, like hardcore Satanists who I've had the misfortune of studying, want to be possessed? It gives them power.
Seriously?
Yes.
They want this. They ask 100%. For this.
100%.
They conjure it.
Oh,
yuck.
100%. Beyonce and Sasha Fierce. I mean, she says
Johnny Depp,
he comes over
Damien Eccles, Order of Nine Angles, all presencing dark gods. That's what they're trying to do. Ed Sheeran. These are all people that are on TV all the time. So how this ties into UFO? It's kind of like there's barriers in the conceptual framework of our thinking, because we're thinking of UFOs as extraterrestrials, which they are, but they're extra dimensionals. And so I think you have to kind of look at them not as somebody's trying to, that's part of the deception, that these are extraterrestrial entities. They're extra dimensional. If they're there, there is an interesting overlap between people who experience UFOs. And what I found out is that, and this is John Mack, this is kind of a pretty reputable psychologist who studied a lot of UFO people. He was a Harvard psychologist. So he's a bright guy. He found out, amongst others, but he was kind of like a guy with some gravitas. He found out that people who have these UFO experiences are also seeing other entities. They're in communication with their dead uncle. They've had other experiences. They've been transported to other places. So they're kind of like on a spiritual spectrum where they're very imaginative or something like that. So I think that that's also why this phenomenon keeps getting larger and has greater interest, because other people are having these, they say these experiences. Now there's also charlatans who have books to sell. There's a lot of intel agents involved in all this stuff. But I think from a Christian, if this is a Christian show and it's about prophecy, is the phenomenon real, and are they extraterrestrials? The phenomenon is real. They're extra dimensionals, and all these events are much like demon people used to. Go look at all the myth, like the 1615, 1617 Renaissance stories, or anything about coming out of the Dark Ages, about stories about demon possession. They're almost the same as UFOs.
You mentioned it earlier about Sean Ryan, Joe Rogan, these sort of alternative new media things, and I will occasionally turn on these just to see what the flavor is. And I remember the one you're talking about, and Greer, who was interviewed.
Greer, yeah, that was
there's this.
Green. I meant
yeah,
Greer,
but there is this. It's not a drip, drip, drip. You've got the testimony in front of the House and the Senate, and so it's more like the faucet is being turned up on this, to where you're no longer wearing your tinfoil hat if you believe in these other dimensional or extraterrestrial beings. You're actually a moron if you don't believe in it. And so I'm just seeing this drip, drip, drip turn up, and Sean Ryan likes to get on a lot of ex-spooks. I'm air quoting ex-spooks because I don't think that they're necessarily ex-spooks.
They never are. They never are. They're in my slides. I show them all in my slides. Rogan is a perfect example. I'm glad you brought him up. He's a massive promoter of the UFO as extraterrestrials, myths. He has all these guests on, and when you're sitting there looking at him, they don't show the full background of him, but he's literally sitting in a chair with a neon triangle headed up to a UFO above his head. So imagine what it's looked like. It's beaming its information down. But if you're a Satanist and you know the UFOs are evil entities, what does that mean? Because I think a lot of the Satanists know they're playing a game on you. Whitley Strieber's another one. Whitley Strieber he knows all the Illuminati numbers. He's hung out with Lawrence Rockefeller. I mean, there's a really kind of amazing picture Whitley Strieber, this is the guy who like he religified the connection between, that's not even a word. He like memorialized the connection between these UFOs and people. I forgot what his famous book was, but he's like the gray alien, which Crowley had like literally had a picture of him in 1918. I know way too much about Crowley, but that's from the Blue Equinox, where he literally drew Lamb. Lamb is a term of endearment. It's like a root word of Lama. So Lama is this kind of great teacher. And that's the way that's the way Whitley Strieber did it. And I can't remember the name of this book. Maybe somebody can find it in the chat or something like that. But he like made it kind of and we can get into some dark stuff associated with Strieber. But Rogan is one of them. These guys are all in. Greer's into orbs. Ryan's into this guy Bledsoe's into orbs.
Hallucinogens. I mean, Ryan's always promoting hallucinogens on his show.
Right. So these guys are carrying on the tradition of Leary, Crowley, all these guys, but a much more palatable and a much more kind of like hipster. Hey, we're part of the, it's almost like a men's movement or something like that, working out and beating the crap out of each other in a ring, and then hallucinogens and UFOs.
Well, it's like, no, we're not part of the mainstream media. It's that alternative right media, which right now you see with this, you see them eating their own with the Iran-Israel situation. You see the MAGA movement, eating its own. So I'm just having fun sitting back watching, watching and eating popcorn from a biblical prophecy standpoint.
People who know the Bible, they see these things happening like we know they're supposed to happen. The birth pangs are supposed to happen. The Luciferians want the birth pangs for different things. It goes back to Crowley too, who believed like he wanted to institute the book of Revelation, strangely, like from a satanic perspective, like the beast and the Scarlet Woman and all this stuff. Like you wouldn't believe it. But maybe we can play that Sean Ryan, that Bledsoe clip, because
show it.
That's where he goes to the lady. Yeah.
Alignment will happen in 2026 at Easter.
What will happen?
The alignment she told me about, that the star of Regulus would be on the horizon in front of the Sphinx. At that moment, there'd be a new knowledge. Well, I had no idea if this was even possible, but these astronomers run it through the machines, and it comes out that star is going to come up on the horizon in Easter of 2026. And from that point forward, they started remote viewing the state. Government did. And now you hear it all over TV. 2026, that's the big date. 2027, that year, something's going to happen. Armageddon, you hear it all over. You hear it on TV. If you study, like I've heard even. Well, I won't say names, but...
Please do.
Well, Lou Elizondo, right? Lou's mentioned that date. A lot of people have.
Easter 2026.
Well, the year 2026. I gave him the specific time. And it was with Robert Grant that I told him about this alignment and all. And then he's like, oh, my God. He's been looking for this ruby. This little ruby you have to find and place it between the paws of the Sphinx to make this event that he knows is going to happen in 2026. I said, Robert, it's not a ruby, it's the star of Regulus. He looks like, he's like, oh my God, that's the king's star. So what's going to happen, I don't know. But I think it's possible that's the return of
Christ.
Yeah. Or the lady and the whole heavenly host living with us, Jesus. That's the first time I've ever said that in my life, publicly. You're the first.
The lady is not, we're not married people, but the lady is probably Alice Bailey, right?
No, I think what he's saying is the lady is some kind of ascended master. That's what I think he's saying.
Okay.
They also, a lot of the occultists worship the lady. It's the female representation of Lucifer. A lot of people think of Lucifer as all male, but it's actually the concept is
the divine feminine merging with the big penis in Washington D.C. with the Capitol dome. I mean the Vatican with its big old vagina symbol and the big old penis right there in the middle. I mean, with the sunburst, it's there everywhere.
Lucifer is an androgyne, and so that's why you see Baphomet with this kind of weird, kind of androgynous look. And all Satanists, they become androgynes, and they call it a positive androgyne. That's kind of one of the core things about transhumanism. Is some of these guys like Genesis P. Orge, who's an offshoot of Crowley, really believe that this kind of melding of men and women in one person is a positive. But
we're seeing that, William, with just society trying to push this transgender nonsense. That little girls can be little boys.
When Hubbard and Parsons went out to do the Babylon working right after Crowley, this is I think 48, 49. The idea was to create a magical world, right? So the kind of the era of Horus, right, that transcends the hero, the kind of Christian era, which is the Aeon of Horus. They prayed to the lady. They didn't reach out to Satan. They didn't invoke, the great white brother. They invoked the lady, and Hubbard believed that he had contact with the lady and had a specific ritual. And this guy went on to start the Church of Scientology, which is basically an occult mind control cult, very powerful. All based on black magic.
Could the lady be the woman that rides the beast? I mean, Ishtar and Anna.
Yeah, I think so. Enlil or whatever. It goes all the way back.
Well,
so it's some kind of occult entity, and you can see Bledsoe kind of like mix all this stuff together, right? It's the Sphinx, another occult symbol. This is a heavy magic symbol. For people who don't know, when you go to a Masonic lodge, the big lodge in DC, you'll see the Sphinxes out front. You'll see it, all this stuff, and it actually goes back to Alfred Lewis Constant, who also was known as Elvis Levy, whose book had the Baphomet in it. The Sphinx represents the basic doctrines of the magician: to know, to will, to dare, and remain silent. And so when they talk about the Sphinx, somebody in the know who's been initiated is like, oh, I know what you're talking about. You're talking about these symbols. And that's why you'll see the Sphinx in all other places. So he's very clever. Like, these aren't like the kind of caricatures of Satanists who are very obvious, like LaVey, like a bald guy with the goatee or something. This is really clever stuff. And if you go into the more deep elements of that book, it'll blow your mind. Orbs, the burning bush, but it's the satanic symbol. So the satanic version of the Old Testament in Genesis is that the God of the Old Testament is actually at enmity with humanity. And Lucifer gave knowledge. And so what God is keeping people, the apple is actually positive, because it's giving, Lucifer helped the people get the tree of knowledge. It's not the knowledge of good and evil, but their view is that it's the tree of knowledge. So intelligence from a Luciferian side view is very important. The tree of knowledge is symbolized by the lightning bolt hitting the burning tree. And so if you see that, you'll see it in sort of like the Frankenheimer, I can't remember the producer's name, very famous producer. All of his films start off with the lightning bolt hitting the tree. It's in Bledsoe stuff. So if you know this, if like here's the thing about the occult, it's occulted to the profane, like you and me. A Mason would call us profane or a mundane, or the muggle is what they would call you in Harry Potter. Very similar concepts. But to somebody who's initiated, they know exactly what Bledsoe's doing. They know exactly, because they know all the symbols, the orbs, the lady, the invocations, the Sphinx, right? Do you understand what I'm saying?
So I got real excited about 2017, thinking back in 1917, we had 6 apparitions of Mary to a bunch of Portuguese kids. And I'm not sure if the kids became saints or not. But anyway, there were apparitions on the 13th of each month, other than the parents wouldn't allow them to meet, I think, in July. So she showed up on the 19th, but she intended to be there on the 13th. And then on October 13th, you had 70,000 people see a UFO. Have you ever studied that? I mean, what's the deal with the lady there? And is that tied into what we're talking about?
100%. So I do believe that these phenomenon, if they're all seeing it, I believe that the phenomenon is possibly happening. Like, I'm not there to see it, but if all these people say they saw it, then maybe something happened. And maybe, you know, I don't know. Maybe somebody invoked it. I don't know. Like, I don't practice occultism, but these people say these phenomenon are happening. They see the same visions. I know people in my personal life who've had extra sense, like things beyond the material realm happen to them at the same time. So I think these things happen. I've had sleep paralysis happen to me. It's not explicable. And I've said in my mind the name of Jesus Christ and it stopped. So I've had supernatural events, like
William,
not massive ones. Like I wasn't taken to the 7th level.
I was going to say, I mean, that's happened to me in the past, and the 3, 4, 5 times I can remember it, like where I was conscious when I woke up, it was me almost fighting
to move
as I'm sleeping. Hold on, man, let me finish, okay? As I'm sleeping, I knew there was something. It was like a sleep paralysis. It felt dark, and I just had to get out the name Jesus, like I was trying. And then when it happened, everything was fine. So
it's interesting.
That's what I experienced a few times in the past. Not recently, but
I have heard that these UFO experiences, when you say the name of Jesus, they end.
You know, L.A. Marzulli, obviously. If you have you ever been on his show or he?
Yeah, a long time ago, like Doug. Like I was on there. I think he was one of my first shows, actually, when I self-published my first book in 2010 was Doug Amp and L.A. Marzulli.
Yeah. And L.A.'s
we have a question from Maya Rivka. Does he actually believe in aliens? So I know L.A. pretty well, and I would say you have to qualify it. He doesn't believe that they're coming from distant star systems. He thinks that they are demons or demonic entities of some sort. And so that's where he definitely takes a very spiritual, a dark spiritual slant on that whole question. So
he would agree with what William said earlier, extra dimensional or other dimensional beings as opposed to from another planet.
Yeah.
Maybe we can show some of those slides. I think they're interesting because it shows Sean Ryan's kind of this is the video. The other one, let me see if I can bring that up. You just hit the slide. Yeah, Sean Ryan. It just shows his connection to these spooked people who are spooked up, remote viewing, and all this stuff.
Why is he only showing one eye there, William? I mean, what's going on there? I mean, is that just coincidence? I mean,
no. I don't think it's coincidence because I see other people who are spooked up, like Piers Morgan, do the same thing on the entrance to his show. So I think that they're really kind of giving themselves away by their symbolism. I think that the symbols really, that's the way they communicate, by symbolism. I can't remember which occultist said that. Can you bring that up, Doug? Are you able to bring that into the? You should be able to say add it to this. Oh, okay. Yep. Okay, there it is. So that's the one eye, Sean Ryan. UFO of God, the extraordinary true story of Chris Bledsoe. So it's true. But if you even read this thing, like the stuff that's in this is just awesome.
Have you read it, William?
No, I need to read it. I have to find the time.
I would
luminous orbs. The words consciousness, and then the giveaway is like John Alexander, totally spooked up. Here it is. Visit from the Lady, the Vatican, remote viewing, assassination plot of the Pope, dripping orbs, the burning tree is what I was talking to you about, right? The Monroe Institute and the healings of a son of a elite power broker with ties. So outsiders, this can be seen as demonic, but to those who are willing to keep an open mind, it's a blessing, right? So the first thing you're like, it's demonic. The guy who the thing that I was trying to remember was Whitley Strieber. You guys still there?
Yeah.
Whitley Strieber and communion, right? So this thing about the aliens, he's like turning it, he's usurping terminology from Christian religion, communion. Anyway, Sean Ryan, the great and new movement is proceeding in tremendously increased interplay and interaction taking place to go on until AD 2025. That's the great assembly of the hierarchy. Set forth the first stage of the externalization of the hierarchy. It's this year.
Hey, William, do you find it fascinating? Again, I don't know where you stand on this. I have long believed one of my co-hosts is very much thinks I probably talk about this too much, but I believe Yeshua returns 2 days or 2,000 years after he ascended and returned to his place. What the reason I'm even bringing that up? It's almost like the occults know biblical prophecy better than 99% of cemetery-trained theologians, especially if they've been trained into dispensational theology.
You might be right. Crowley was a
and it's just rinse, wash, repeat. Is I'm not criticizing these brothers as far as their love for Jesus and how they've been taught to love Jesus, but it's rinse, wash, repeat as far as the American prophecy. I mean, even my college friends who don't study it, they can regurgitate the Left Behind, playbook. They can regurgitate the Hal Lindsey, the Thief in the Night. Everybody has this pre-programmed into their head about how things are going to go down. And I just believe the religious leaders at the time, those that were most knowing of scripture or thought they were the most deceived when Yeshua came the first time. And so that's how I see this playing in. There's just been a big deception to get people not paying attention. And it just seems to me that this 2025 day, that's why I'm not surprised about anything that's happening. I haven't been surprised about anything since 2020. That was really what jolted me to like, oh crap. It's looking like it's starting to get biblical. So
I agree. Here in 2020, you could go get as much alcohol from the liquor store, but you couldn't go to church here in California. That should have been another one eye from another character who's around. I forgot this guy's name. Mike Benz. Mercenary super web. These guys are infiltrating the alternate media that didn't exist before. It's really something else. This is another one. This is the guy who I think is supporting Bledsoe. Could telepathically communication with orbs. This is Luciferianism, man. This is sorcery. That's what they're selling. They're selling it in different terminology. It's the same concept. This is the giveaway. I don't know if you know the guy Grush, who was supposedly the Pentagon guy, the disclosure guy. Do you remember those hearings with Grush?
Oh, yeah.
He's here in this picture. He's at the Esalen Institute, which is literally funded by Lawrence Rockefeller, has the 9 ascended masters who are looking over its work. And he was pictured in the back here. Like, this is the huge giveaway. This appears to be UFO, quote, whistleblower, unquote, David Grush attending a meeting of mystics, gurus, and shamans that use psychic powers to communicate with non-local intelligence. That's what they're all doing, guys. They're in communication. Even David Icke, dude. The one of the things about Icke is that his early stuff, he admitted to communicating with the Great White Brotherhood. Brzezinski.
Yep. But everybody's a reptilian.
Yeah. So this disclosure, I had guests on the Collins brothers, great, super knowledgeable guys. It's called deception through disclosure. That was their phrase, and they're right. So this is Stephen Greer. Go watch Stephen Greer's documentaries. He has the burning tree. He has the symbolism of the lightning bolt hitting the tree. They're also making a lot of money off this. It's very lucrative. Tucker Carlson, Anshan Ron, member of the Pilgrim Society, hangs out says he was at the Metropolitan Club. Like, these are super elite things, man. He's totally networked. His son is named after Buckley, like William Buckley. Give me a break. So there he is. They're playing a joke on us, man. This is gaslighting. And
that's what I was getting at earlier, as far as whether Tucker really, really left Fox or was pushed out, or if Tucker's just still playing his being controlled by his puppet masters.
My opinion on that is that the TV watching among the thinking classes eroded to almost nil. So the people who really want to influence the public realize that these the influencers on TV has lost their mojo, is probably a good way to work it. So they all are moving out. So they all kind of drifted off Cuomo, Don Lemon, Tucker, both sides of the aisle, into simple podcasts, and they're trying to kind of make themselves more relevant. Tucker probably being the most successful, but so I think he's part of that.
Well, there's the one eye again. Probably just coincidence.
Yeah, it's not a mistake. MDMA, there you go. More pressing. Not Christ isn't the answer. It's drugs, right? This is the 60s. Birth of the Child, Army Psychic. So these are all very, and there's Trump, the golden man, how we started. And as we're coming to an end, this is like, even the kind of perspective on this is such a joke. Like looking up at the big golden one. This is what he put on his social media. Anyway, that's where I'm at.
So we're what about Prince Charles? We've had Tim Cohen on. Are you familiar with Tim Cohen and his work, Antichrist and a Cup of Tea?
I've heard that. I heard he did a new edition of that.
He did. Yeah, he's been a guest, and and bless her. I mean, I will say she's passed away now, but she did. We had her on, Maria Marola, about Trump years ago, or she was pointing out some of these things about Trump. Now, about how he may be the little horn. She never said the Antichrist, but that he could be the little horn. So,
let me see if I can find the Tesseract of Trump.
Tesseract of Trump.
Yeah, his doorway into his golden room is a square within a square. And pardon?
Oh, cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
If you can find it, pop it up.
Well, let me see if I can find it. I can't. It's not on my hard. It's on my external hard drive. But
here's a question. I think this is a good question. What is authentic Christianity?
Biblical Christianity. It's saying like, the thing is that so many people add this additional stuff, additional books or things like that. And I think that even Paul, I can't remember which epistle it was, but made that warning. Be careful if people add to the gospel. I can't remember verbatim, but so I would say that's just my way of, the Bible is so important. The gospels are so important as a foundation of the religion, of really Christ-centered Christianity, I guess is the way to put it.
Peter warned us about twisting the Bible in 2 Peter, I think 3:16. And the problem is the NAR people, many of the pastors today are twisting the Bible. Maybe they're doing it for the cash. Maybe who knows what it is. Sometimes they are, I would argue some pastors are Luciferians, that they're placed there, especially the main lines. It's so much easier to just get in there if you believe in nothing or if you have a cause. And it can be that alternative cause. Any comments there?
But don't you think it really, even like Paul at the very beginnings of, like, after Christ died and was resurrected, the church was infiltrated all the time by ideas, Gnosticism, bad people. Well, so it's an ongoing thing. So, like, people, I mean, that's just a word that came out of the top of my head, authentic Christianity, because I could say Christianity and somebody could think like, oh, that's Catholicism or something, like.
Yeah.
That's or they think it's like Christian Science is real Christianity, or And
William, I'm careful even when I say it something like this, even though my co-hosts know what I'm saying, the regular audience knows, but I like to say now I'm a disciple, a follower of Yeshua, of Jesus, as opposed to using the term, because again, I don't do Christmas, I don't do Easter, I don't do these made up Roman Catholic holidays that are not biblical. I mean, and that's what is associated with Christianity a lot of the time. I believe authentic faith would be what Yeshua walked out, what he taught, what Paul taught, what Peter taught. And again, like, as you just said, even when Paul is writing his epistles, he's warning about wolves and about false teachers that are already infiltrating the true ecclesia, those true followers of Yeshua. And we're talking within 10, 15, 20, 30 years. And then when Peter writes his second epistle, as Joel just pointed out, about how Paul's letters were being twisted and perverted to teach a lawless Messiah to their own destruction. And that's what, especially in 21st century, you get, I call it the gospel of the Beatles. All we need is love. We've got Episcopalian and Lutherans and everybody saying, we can have transgender priests. We can have gay marriage, so it's a slippery slope when you start taking away from Scripture. And
Amen.
So,
amen.
So as the deceptions increase, how do the people prepare for this, Bill? I mean, it's going to come like a flood, according to Daniel, and really according to Luke 21:25. The big flood of filth is coming at us. What do the people do?
Stay close to the Bible. That's really it. Stay close to the original texts. Do it.
Okay.
Don't be conformed to the world. So, I think that's really, that would be my advice.
Yeah.
We're born into it.
Repent.
I don't think, repent.
Turn from our ways and do it his way. His instructions are not complicated. Religions make it complicated.
What do you think about this, William? Look up the word MAGA in Latin and see what you get. Latin MAGA means witch, enchantress, sorceress. It's a feminine of magus. Do you give any credence to that, or what are your thoughts?
I'm not surprised. There's an uncomfortable kind of cult of personality behind Trump, and I think and I think he's encouraged it, and I think it's a mistake.
Well, William, we have taken many lashes from some I call them Trump jock sniffers that can't handle any criticism toward their idol, and if that just raised your hackles, I really don't care. If you're that offended by your worship of a politician, just you have.
Well, if you really love Trump and you think that he's a Christian or he has your best ideas in mind or something, I'm going to show you something. Let me get the Tesseract.
I've got some Mediterranean land to sell you over in Gaza that I can
give me one
that
second.
Nonsense.
Well, he is going to get a resource.
No, he's coming back.
Okay. He's going to get a resource. And so, I'll tell you, this has been, of course, very interesting. I think that the term authentic Christianity, it's riddled with problems, because how in the world are you going to define that? Everyone is going to define it a bit differently. But I guess I would argue the very best that we can do is, study the words of Jesus, try to take those seriously, do what he said, don't do what he said not to do. And I think if we can do that, and of course, love is super duper important. That is absolutely critical. So
I believe Christianity really gets the second greatest commandment, at least the solid walk in the walk Christians. Again, you'll never hear me criticize that part. They really do teach on how to love others, but they don't really teach on the specific instructions on how God says to love him. It's not an I think, I feel, I won't, I love. It's thus saith the Lord. It is written, do these things. His love language is very, very specific.
You ready to go, William?
Almost. Give me 1 second.
While you're working on that, I'll bring up a little topic. When we're watching the Iran-Israel war right now, it's intriguing to see that Russia has been supplying Iran with air defense systems and other systems to defend themselves, and they lost in about 4 days. So the United States systems are just destroying the Russian systems. So this is frightening Russia and China. So they're going to step back now and watch this. They're going to be angry, obviously, because they're losing badly. And they're being embarrassed, okay? Because Iran knew how to use the systems properly, and they were trained properly. So it's just interesting to see that the American system is going to win out. The EU countries are choosing now to buy from America. Instead, it's going to elevate Trump. Possibly Iran will give up in a short period of time. There might be regime change. If so, obviously this is not the Gog-Magog war. That's going to occur many years from now. But in the meantime, it sets up a stage where we could have some peace. We could have 1 Thessalonians 5:3 peace. I'm blanking on the other time that I want to cite it from. It doesn't. No, Ezekiel 38 12, probably 11 or 12. You've got this time of peace where Israel could be peaceful in their land. Probably not a real good peace, but some kind of a business-like peace, maybe. And then within a short period of time, we'll go right back into the war drums. Any comments, guys? Oh,
I believe the Ezekiel 38 is parallel to Revelation 2021, but Ezekiel 39 is a different ballgame altogether. That's my off the cuff quick thing. I believe when Jerusalem dwells in safety is describing what we see in Gog Magog in Revelation. Versus in 39, they're cleaning up for 7 months. And
yeah, they're cleaning up.
Has a good teaching on that about second Passover and how that 7 month period aligns with second Passover.
He likes gold, doesn't he?
He loves it. And Apollo. He loves Apollyon.
That design in the background is not a mistake. Those is square within a square. That symbolizes what's known as the tesseract. It's actually kind of a concept within physics, but it's also kind of moved into really heavy initiated occultism. And what it symbolizes is kind of enslavement, mental enslavement, and control. So the magician on the outside controls the box within the box. So they put you in a box. And if you don't think that they use this, you can just look at the 9/11 memorial, the boxes within the boxes there, or you can go watch very important satanic influence films like Eyes Wide Shut or Rosemary's Baby. Ooh. I mean, and it's in apparently some of these comic book movies too. But this is high level stuff.
Look at the top of Trump Tower, and you have a big old black cube on the top of Trump Tower, and you have an upside down pyramid with 6 trees, 6 trees, 6 trees. It's probably just coincidence. I mean, there's nothing to see there, everybody. If you just look at Trump Tower and you've got an upside down pyramid, it's probably totally coincidence.
The Trump building in Las Vegas is a monolith, and I think it's set up at a different angle. It's kind of at a 45-degree angle. It's in a weird place. If you play that, this is also the hallway into his living room, this video, but it shows kind of the gilded entryway into where he lives in Manhattan. But you'll see the doorway is a tesseract. And it's also a square on a square of the pizza boxes. Like these guys are they're signaling.
Play it, Doug, if you can.
Yeah, you got to go to the video, Doug. I can't do it. Take this one off. Yeah, go to that video right there and play it. There you go.
And this 555 deal's really popular. Mr. Trump, here you go. 3 medium pizzas, $5 each. Tell you what.
See that's the doorway to his living room. It's a tesseract. It's a square within a square. He's telling you that. He's a high-level Mason or something. I don't know what it is. That's not like a Christian would devote. That's the whole thing. You want to talk about infiltration in the Christian church is Masons who are also Christians or Christians who are also
Masons. They love Norman Vincent Peale.
Tell you what, I'll counter that offer with an even better one. Here's the deal. You give me those 3 pizzas, only I'll give you just $5 a piece. Sure? Okay. Still got it, Donald. Still got it. Call now and get 3 or more medium one-topping pizzas for just $5 each.
Yeah, the tesseract, man. Incredible.
Wow.
He knows a lot. He knows much more than the public that he lets on. He does some hand signals sometimes. He has some strange friends too. Right?
Every time he sits down, we look, he's taking a dump, and he has the upside down pyramid. Hey, did you see did you see the inauguration where the son started doing the little thing, and the wife is like slapping him on the stop that! What are you doing, you moron?
I did see that. So that's for all you Trump lovers right there. He knows the tesseract, and you can look it up. You can look. I've done shows on the tesseract. I've done shows on Eyes Wide Shut, Rosemary's Baby, and I've taken apart. I mean, Rosemary's Baby is full of symbolism. It's unbelievable.
That's
a movie.
Who's the director on that again?
Polanski.
Okay, yeah.
He was Sharon Tate, Manson
family.
The entrance to her door is just tesseract too. So they have the tesseract symbolism at the doorway to her apartment. I'll ruin the whole movie for you, but the real story is that Guy, her husband, is in on it from the beginning that he's the one bringing her in to give birth to the Antichrist.
Hey, speaking of movies like that, did you ever watch The Omen back in the day? And the reason I brought this up is Jared Kushner not look like the kid on The Omen in the second movie.
Maybe, I don't know. I have to look at that again. So anyway, that's I have a lot of I've done so much occult research on films and movies and things like that, but Fight Club full of occultism, esotericism.
So we're in the birth pangs. We're not in the Great Tribulation, right, Bill?
Well, I don't know. I don't know. Like, I feel like a lot of people were killed by the kill shot, so probably 40 million dead worldwide at least, and people are probably still dying young. So I'd say that's pretty intense. And the Bible's not really that positive at the end. So, and I mean, that was swept under the rug. That was who was the head of Operation Warp Speed, like Donald Trump. He conveniently doesn't look into what happened during the rollout of the bioweapon. But it is an interesting time between Bailey, who is interested in the Anticorona and the influence of the Anticorona in the Operation Warp Speed symbolism. It's really something else.
Well, let's give some encouragement here, because again, this has been more educational, informative, but ultimately it's about repentance. Return to his way, place your faith in Yeshua, and we don't have anything to worry about. This is more this type of show is more about informative. For William has spent a lot of time researching this, so he can bring this to light, so people can understand just how much you have been manipulated, programmed, controlled during your entire lifetime, probably without even realizing it. And especially when you start talking about things like politics and the Hegelian dialectic, because people get very, very upset if you start attacking their side or their candidate. And so I guess the encouragement here is focus on Scripture, focus on the Word, focus on Yeshua, focus on your walk, your daily repentance, and then all this other stuff. We have no control over this. Yah is the one in control. So that would be the encouragement. Anything to add, William?
I'm fulfilling what they say in the Bible, which is have nothing to do with the unfruitful works of darkness, but rather expose them. So if you expose them, that is actually kind of encouraging, because you're seeing that these people who are antagonistic to God, to say it like this is going to happen at the end times, it'll be like the days of Noah, are doing it in front of your face. So it validates the Bible. You don't have to, you want to know what's going on and be knowledgeable of all of these things. The deeper things of Satan, it's mentioned in, I think, Revelation. It's happening. This is it. These are the occultists. And they're all deceiving. And they make hand signs. They do all this weird stuff. I'm loyal to the cause. They're saying it through symbols and things like that. When you understand their symbols, then you're understanding you're being played. And that's like, don't be deceived. I thought that's what they said in the Bible. So people who need encouragement all the time, it's good, but give me a break.
Did you ever watch that movie where the aircraft carrier disappears and goes back in time? I just brought it up because
isn't it the Philadelphia story or something like that?
Yeah. The Philadelphia experiment.
Whatever, yeah.
But the only reason I brought it up is because it's making the conspiracy truther channels right now about the Nimitz is being brought in as a false flag, and it's going to get taken out, and that's going to be what leads us into World War III. So that's the only reason I brought it up, because that's just a theory floating around everybody. So
don't be deceived. 10-7 was a false flag, man. They stood down for 7 hours. That's not Stormfront. That is from the Israeli media. A lot of Israelis know that. So my encouragement is don't be deceived. Know these things. Know these symbols. Don't let Trump deceive you. And don't become some kind of cult of personality follower either. So, but like I said, follow the Bible. Jesus is king. Christ is king. Stay biblically oriented. Put all your coins in heaven. And, that's encouragement right there. If you need encouragement, there's so many encouraging things. The thing about the Bible is in the New Testament is it's not just a bunch of like saccharine, sugary, sweet stuff. They're telling you they're going to hate you. You can get killed. All these leaders were murdered. It's not that pleasant, but there's hope. There's hope for the next world. There's hope for doing the right thing. So be encouraged by that. The people who came before us and set the foundations of our faith.
Well, we've been a wee bit spoiled in America. At least I have. I know I have, ever since I've grown up with this freedom of religion thing. We've never been persecuted. There's some people think they're getting persecuted because, you know, a Methodist makes fun of a Baptist, or you know, they think that's persecution or something. But what's coming, if we are approaching the end of the age, what's coming will be severe tribulation, severe persecution. And so I believe we just need to be prepared for that. And worst case scenario, you get your head cut off, you know. So that's not encouraging words, but it's not all roses, everybody, at the end of the age.
I would say don't get your theology from Joe Rogan, from Tucker, from Sean Ryan, from Candace. Glenn Beck is, of course, Glenn Beck has an eschatology. He does. He has a tight one. The Jehovah's Witnesses have a huge, not Jehovah's, he's a Mormon, but it's a, yeah, he's a Mormon, but they all three of the groups, the SDAs, the SDAs aren't a cult, but basically the Mormons and the Jehovah's Witnesses are cults, and they have a tight eschatology going forward. And so just be wary of these things, because they've got billions of dollars to spend on the end times, and they're putting out major publications daily. So, and also with Tucker and Rogan and those guys, I mean, they're all newbies to the faith, and so they're not solidified in what the Bible actually is. You know, I listened to a guy named Mike Adams for years there, thinking he's a great guy. No, he's horrible. You know, and so be very careful of these newbies to the faith.
Good word. Very good word. Well, William, thank you so much for coming on. You enlightened us in a number of areas. So thank you for that. Just want to encourage people, you know, hey, stay in the word. Yeah, Jesus did say it would get ugly at the end, but we do have the hope that he is coming and he's going to establish his kingdom. Just to let you know, we are going to be doing things a little bit different next month. Toward the end of the month, Scott and I are going to start going through the book of Revelation, verse by verse and chapter by chapter. So it'll be a fun conversation. We're looking forward to it. We're going to establish what it means to have a hermeneutic. What is a hermeneutic? Okay, it's a method of interpreting the Bible. We're going to talk about that, and then we're just going to go through it. We're just going to chew on it, and it should be a lot of fun. I don't think we're going to agree on everything, but I don't think we're going to disagree on everything either. It's going to be a lot of fun, and so guys, stay in the word, be encouraged. God is in control. That is the good news. And again, make sure to like, subscribe, and go ahead if you want to be a patron. Thank you so much. God bless.